days to even now. And I think all these lessons should be brought into the management also. I don't know why the current management, the B schools, don't even take these examples for women empowerment, etc. And women in Rotary, as you said, are very active. At RCME, we have close to about 30 women. You see them sitting here. They're all very active members of the board. And the incoming Rotary International President is a woman. I think it's the first time. Am I right, Sylvan? Very first time we have a women Rotary International President from Canada, which is really amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah.
When you talked about the B schools and why they don't use more women, I think because today we attribute success to economic success alone. I think we look at somebody who's, who has a return on investment, who's business net cap. But I really think that when we talk about the great culture of our country and we talk, oh, great tradition, great culture, it comes from the artistic point of view. It could be our architecture, it could be our literature or poetry. But we can't put a value on them, right? Because the arts are so subjective. Something that you love and like and might move you to tears, it may not have the same effect to somebody standing right next to you. And so what is subjective is something you can't put a price on, you can't buy, you can't own, you can't purchase, and you can't retrade it. So I think we need to also look back at those kinds of value systems that we have either changed or we drive our children to that. I always say that if you're able to and you have an artist in the family, please nurture that talent, if you're able to. Because I think that we need more creative thinkers. And companies are always looking now to artists. Harvard has called a choreographer, Twyla Tharp, to come and be one of their consultants because they want people from other disciplines to come and tell them how to think out of the box. I think in that sense, we have such amazing artists in India, but we haven't made that connect between management, business, and the arts. The left and right brains must come together, I hope.
Thank you so much. We open the floor for questions. Any questions from the audience? Yeah, Revati?
All our Puranas, Itihasas, and our mythologies come out of the mouth of men. And so women have to constantly negotiate their positions. Yeah? Let me just give you an example of the 3rd century AD, or what we call, the Common Era, when Emperor Constantine in Constantinople, now Istanbul, convened all the bishops and everybody from the Christian faith. Is anybody here from the Christian faith? But it's a very interesting historical. There were so many versions of the Bible 300 years after Christ. Hundreds and hundreds of versions and gospels. And they had to then say, we cannot have so many, it's going to confuse people. So they created in 3rd century, it's called the Council of Nicaea. And they created the single version of the Bible, which would henceforth be propagated. So everybody had a gospel, including the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. Everybody, and there's many women had written gospels. We don't know them until they were unearthed in Egypt as part of the Coptic discoveries. It took almost 2,000 years for Mary Magdalene to not be a prostitute and to become canonized as a saint. They didn't know what to do with the character of Mary Magdalene, right? What do we do with her? So, well, if she's a woman and she's not really married or whatever it was, okay, that's all. That's it. She's a fallen woman. So much has been manipulated So much has been manipulated. And if you, now another thing about our itihasas and Puranas, it's difficult when we read them with a 21st century lens. And I think we shouldn't take many of the characters literally. We must take them as examples of what we call in academics tropes. They're not, they're not characters, they become tropes. They become representatives of something larger. But women are constantly having to negotiate. The Greek myths are no different. Medusa is considered with the hair of snakes, with his eyes. Wherever she looks, the person becomes a stone. But what made Medusa that? She was raped. So that part is forgotten, and just what she becomes is what is then made into sculpture and made into this, and we only see one half of it. So I think, as inconvenient as it may be to men, we need to relook at all these backstories and understand why it's convenient to make Menaka, Ramba, and Tilottama in the heavens, these sort of fabulous, glamorous geisha girls. Well, they were geisha girls. They were intelligent. They had every quality that a man wanted. They actually could choose their own men. And that was the freedom and the economic power that many of the hereditary female artists, dancers, and musicians in India had. They owned property, and they had children, and they gave the children's names. And do you know, during the Chola period, if you look at the Chola inscriptions, the biggest donors to the temple, the biggest donors to projects that the Rotary is so proud of now, water irrigation projects, building projects, were women. Because they had the wealth in their hands. The men of that community were wastrels and drunkards, and seeing how to get the women, how to get the money out of the women. Because they were covered in velvet and diamonds and emeralds, and they were really, really honored. So these are stories that we must learn of women in our own life, just in our own geographical areas. And what happened when that connection between who they were and the service they did, their connection with the temple got cut. So, this is maybe a long, convoluted answer to the Menaka story, but let's reread these stories, And did Menaka finally? Many women don't have a happy ending. Let's just, there's no happily ever after, walking off into the sunset, kind of. Exactly, they found happiness in solitude. They found happiness in solitude, and that is very scary to men. That women can live without them. It's a very scary thought. No, it really is. It really is. We tell our young girls, please get married. There'll be some companion for you in your old age. But the very fact is, women are outliving men. I mean, that is the statistic. So that's what you mean. That's a solace. That's a solace Ahalya took in a very beautiful twist, modern writing to the story. She finally says she comes back and she's saved by Rama and all that. Then she finds out what Rama did to Sita after he won the war. I don't want to be saved by a man who's going to suspect his wife. You know what? I'm going back to being a statue. I love it. I don't have to cater to any man's wish. That's it. That's a decision she took. So yes.
I call myself a feminist, and I spent a lot of time in my life telling guys and gals, I'm not that kind of a guy. Right?
Thank you.
But we are also, growing up in India at least, I believe we were fed a whole lot of bullshit about all women are somehow equatable to gods, if not your mothers. This is a sort of a fraud that has been continuously perpetrated, especially in Indian society. But to come to a question, the topic here was heroines rather than woman versus man, yes? But if femininity was a caste, we would call it an equal caste, right? It's about 50% give or take one. So would you consider talking about heroines as a way of affirmative action? Is that what you're talking about?
I think the very fact that we have been devouring movies and entertainment during the pandemic and that the biggest grossing films and the biggest selling books are all these epic heroine, Superman, Superwoman kind of movies. That narrative is what, and now super cop movies. Things, actions, and deeds that are happening beyond what a normal person does means that this fantasy world of being larger than ourselves is something that will always be fascinating. But thank you for your observation, and that if feminism was a caste, I think we should all say, men and women, that we're all feminists, because we both inhabit this planet. We have to walk hand in hand. I was making a comment to say that, okay, a woman can live alone. Yes, you can live alone. I've been a single parent for 32 years. And now I have to tell my children, I'm so glad you've grown up. Now the rest of my time is mine. And I look forward to that. I look forward to a time. But I also know that I speak from a position of privilege. I have the choice to say that. And I've also realized that in my country, many women don't have that choice. There are so many women, people who work with me, my support staff. 4 of them are in miserable life situations. And yet, all 4 of them uh, do not want to take the step of legal help. They do not want to take the step, even if they lose their children to that irresponsible husband, they don't want to take that step. So here they are slaving away, the only earning member for that family, and yet they are trapped by what the societal, whatever norms and expectations are.